Welcoming me. I'm a member of the Grand Valley Unity. My name's Debbie Squires, as she said. And the next line. I'm going to hit this. I'm going to do this. Okay, and in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. I was told when I was going to do this talk, don't be political, but I'm sorry. This is my background. And I'm going to give you a little hint of my background. My dad was an iron worker and is very involved in unions. And when I was little, he taught me about Eugene Debs and the Socialist Workers' Party. Excuse me. His heroes were FDR and JFK. And while most of you were taught the evils of big government, I was taught the evils of big business. And so that was a strong education in my life. Now, my mother, on the other hand, she loaded us into the car and drove us before car seats and seatbelts. She had a 1949 Plymouth, and she drove us across town to the Unity of Toledo, and that was our religious upbringing. So this and this. So fast forward, 1999. After my second divorce, I went back to the Unity Church. And also I got involved in a women's organization called Zonta. And Zonta is an international women's organization to improve the status of women worldwide. So that was our catchphrase that we had to tell everybody. But I went to one of their meetings, and Bill Ritter spoke to us. And this was before he was the governor. And he talked to us about, domestic violence, that it was definitely a problem and we needed to deal with it. And he implored us to approach our religious leaders and ask them to speak out against domestic violence. He says, I ask you, write to your religious leaders, talk to them, make them make a statement. So I go home, I write a letter to Jack Groverland in Boulder Unity, and I wrote to the Unity Village. Well, Jack Grover didn't write me back. He's a busy guy. But Unity Village did write me back, and they said, we don't get involved in politics. I thought, how is this political? But they said, no, definitely. They will not get involved. And they believe definitely in the separation of church and state. And I'm a strong believer in that. So, but to their credit, a few months later, Jack gave a sermon and he said, we forgive our enemies, but we don't stay in unhealthy relationships. And the Daily Word a few months later put out a statement that basically said the same thing, that we don't stay in anything that's unhealthy, that we value marriage, but if it's unhealthy, we don't stay. So that was, I was happy that was done. So I will introduce that I have a degree in political science, but I'm not a scientist. So I did research in the last month or two, and this is what I came up with. So the next cartoon. So in my politics, my main focus is this planet. Because if we don't have a planet, we don't have to worry about equal rights or equal pay or the border or taxes. You don't have to worry about that stuff. So it's really, the important thing is this planet. And it says climate change. And that was my first thing when I saw that. It's like, yes, it used to be called global warming, but in the 2000s, they changed it to climate change because they thought global warming was a little abrasive and, it was hurting people's feelings. So let's say climate change. But as I was doing the research, I found out, no, actually climate change is the umbrella of everything that's going wrong. Global warming is part of that umbrella. So hurricanes, tornadoes, fires. But climate change encompasses all of this. So I had to backtrack and go, oh, I was wrong with this, So in the 1980s, we had a Secretary of Interior, James Watt. He was very controversial about his environmental record. He was into drilling a lot and cutting down the forests for the wood. And Grist magazine, an environmental magazine, and journalist Bill Moyers they quoted him that he made the statement to Congress that after the last tree is felled, Christ will come back. And I remember this, and I got very upset, like, once again, religion is interfering with our politics, and this is bad, we shouldn't have this. And, they're waiting for the rapture, so it's okay to drill everywhere and cut all the trees down because the rapture's coming. But it turned out, again, I'm doing this research for this talk, and the comment was not true. And they said Grist Magazine and Bill Moyers had to pull their statements, and they had to apologize for what they said because it wasn't true. And in fact, even though James Watts said he's a fundamental Christian, but he did want to preserve the earth as long as he could because he had grandchildren, and that made sense. So doing this talk, I had to backtrack on a lot of my political beliefs. So Hubert Reeves is an astrophysicist, and he made the statement, man is the most insane species. He worships an invisible God and destroys a visible nature, unaware that his nature he's destroying is the God he's worshiping. And the next one. Now, one of the big problems we have in this planet, not that there's much that we can do about it, but we have way too many people on the planet. Years ago, a scientist from NOAA explained to me that this planet can only really handle 3 to 4 billion, and we have 7.9 billion people on the planet, so we're double the number. And I love Frank and Ernest. I always like their cartoons, and they deal with stuff like this. And it says, Earth, how are you doing? And Earth's going, I'm feeling a little under the weather. Well, a doctor would have to run some tests, of course, but it looks like you have a bad case of the people. Look at me, oil spills, ozone depletion, water pollution, soil erosion. I don't know what's wrong with me. And Saturn goes, well, you should do what I did. Get yourself one of these things. It's called a people collar. Let's keep the Okay, so there's this movie called A Mountain Between Us. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Kate Winslet and Idris Elba, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Their plane crashes in the Idaho mountains in the winter, and they have to survive. And it's a survival thing, and Kate Winslet's character comments, she says, we're going to go by the rule of 3. You can go 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water if you're not in a desert, and 3 weeks without food. So those are the things I'm going to touch on, how we can survive. Air. The Amazon rainforest, that'll be the next one. The Amazon rainforests, the tropical rainforests, are often called the lungs of the planet because they're generally drawn in carbon dioxide and breathe out the oxygen. But the amount of carbon dioxide they can absorb or produce varies largely with year-to-year variations of the climate change. This is from the UK Center for Ecology and Hydrology. Jair Bolsonaro, and again, if I'm slaughtering his name, I'm sorry, but he is the president of Brazil, and even though he signed orders to curb deforestation of our Amazon forest, he's also selling acreage to the China government so they can farm it. And the Atlantic magazine states, the rainforest here in Brazil was progressively falling victim to global demand for soy and beef. And the country's biggest customer for that is China. The story of the Amazon has become entangled not simply with the story of Brazil's poor protection of its forest frontier, but with that of the rise of the new superpower and its food security strategy. This dynamic highlights some of the tensions inherent in the challenge of combating climate change. China's middle class has a growing hunger for meat, leading to a rise in demand for soy. And for a country that has pledged to honor the Paris Agreement, China's food security measures run counter to the environmental effects. And this is the problem they're having with the deforestation of the Amazon forest. Bolsonaro argues that his country must prioritize economic growth, and therefore he's selling this land to China. And even if it comes to the cost of destroying the planet's largest tropical rainforest. So once again, we're looking at politics affecting our environment. So my plea is to all the multi-billionaires, please buy the Amazon forest, please. It's for sale. Please go buy it. We got Jeff Bezos. We got Elon Musk trying to buy Twitter. It's like, no, buy the Amazon forest. Bill Gates, Richard Branson, Mark Zuckerberg. I have friends that went through natural habitat in Boulder. That's connected with the World Wildlife Association. And they traveled to the Amazon rainforest. And there's some people there that are trying to preserve the Amazon rainforest, and they're buying it through these tours, and they give tours. And with the money they collect from that, they're buying. So there is some hope, and that's what I want to stress. It's not all doom and gloom. Let's try to reverse this. And at the end, I'll list all the organizations that are doing what they can to try to save our planet. We also have the boreal or taiga forest, which is in the north. It's basically surrounds the North Pole. And it's not suffering from deforestation per se, but it is suffering because the global warming is causing the melting of the snow with our tundra and our permafrost. And that's emitting methane gas, and it's killing the trees, and it's affecting the air that we breathe. Okay, so the next one is for soil. No one owns the water. Or no, this one is for, sorry, this one's for water. No one owns the water, no one owns the lands, no one owns the oceans, no one owns the sands. These are given by our mother. Our planet provides for free. Only by hands of the greedy does the earth require a fee. Poet Christopher. And I think if he's the poet I checked on, he was in the 1700s, and he's already saying this. So, okay. Okay, not yet. Oh, yeah? Go back. Sorry. Go back. Sorry. Okay, so water. The melting glaciers, I thought, oh, with the melting glaciers, that should give us plenty of water, right? But it's not potable water. It's not drinkable. In fact, we have such a problem with pollution in the oceans. We have a floating island of trash between California and Hawaii, and this island is as big as the state of Texas. And you see it, and it's just amazing. And it's affecting the fish. The fish are eating it, the birds are eating it, the marine life are being affected by it. And it's not just in the Pacific Ocean. We have one in the Atlantic and one in the Indian Ocean. In fact, the Maldives Island, one of their islands is just a trash island that's been created by people because Europe comes and dumps its trash there, Asia comes in, and so they've made this mound of trash. And so that's where we realize we do have some problems. With drinkable water, over 2 billion people live in water-stressed countries, which is expected to be increased in some regions by the result of climate change and population growth. Globally, at least 2 billion people use a drinking water source that is contaminated. Most of the important chemicals the chemical risk in the drinking water arise from the arsenic and the fluoride and nitrates emerging from for these contaminations, and they come from pharmaceuticals, pesticides, and the plastic, the microplastics. The plastics do break down, but they don't disintegrate, they don't compost, so we're ingesting all that. And in 2020, only 74% of the global population, which is 5.8 billion, used a safe drinking water supply. That's like what we have here with Ute water. That's water that's located on the premises and available when needed and free from contamination. But that leaves 26%, 2.1 billion of people that do not have safe, clean drinking water. And that's here in the United States. We have people in California that don't have access to clean drinking water. We have people, the Navajo Nation does not have access to that. So we have it right here in the United States.
A lot of business for Deb Jensen.
Is that? Okay. We'll have to talk to her. So, but the positive part of that is I found an organization called Water for People, and it's a nonprofit, and it's a very legitimate nonprofit where the majority of its money goes to getting drinking water for the developing countries and people who need potable water. So that we do have hope. The next one. Desmond Tutu made the remark, when the missionaries came to Africa, they had the Bible and we had the land. They said, let us pray. We closed our eyes. When we opened them, we had the Bible and they had the land. And I had the privilege to go to Africa and visit there, and our tour guides begged us to have our friends come and tour Africa because that's all they have left. In the 1800s, the Europeans came and just took all the natural resources and depleted the country, and now the Chinese are coming in and doing what they can. So they're having problems in this area. And then the next one. Yes.
Hello, this is Jane Goodall. Soil is the biggest ecosystem on the planet, and so few people know anything about it. 1 teaspoon of healthy soil probably contains more microbes than there are people on Earth. And some 87% of all life on the planet depends on it. But the grim reality is that this wonderful ecosystem, about which we still have so very much to learn, is in terrible danger. We're poisoning it with agricultural chemicals and losing it through erosion as ground cover is destroyed, exposing the soil to be washed or blown away by heavy rain or strong wind. Less and less food can be grown as this degradation continues, yet human populations still grow. It's estimated that if we carry on in this way, all the topsoil could be gone in 60 years. We're not only causing harm to ourselves, we're threatening to eliminate all other lives on the planet. We cannot allow this to happen. I request all of you to come together and join the Conscious Planet movement to save soil. We know what we must do, so let's make it happen. Thank you.
Okay. Cut. Okay, again, this is a wonderful organization, Save Soil, by Assad Guru. He's from India, and he's traveled all over Europe, and Jane Goodall's a spokesperson for him, so is a few others. The names are going this way. Anyway, to reiterate what she was saying, they figure we have 60 years to keep our usable soil. That's according to the United Nations. 52% of the area of the world's agricultural soils are already degraded, and 800 million people suffer from hunger because of our soil, the problems with the soil. And this production could fall by 30% in 20 years if the soil extinction is not prevented. So they are saying we can prevent this. When the farmers till the soil, they're exposing methane gas into the air, because you see farmers till soil every spring. So they're asking the farmers not to do that, do it every other year, and we could cut that methane exposure by half. And if you notice, it's all connected. You have the soil, and it affects this atmosphere. It affects the water. In order for the plants to grow, they need the water, and they need the air, the atmosphere. So it's all connected, and it's just like we are. We're all connected. We all need a balance, the balance of nature. One of the biggest problems, though, that we do have, because our population's growing, and also our demand for meat. And many of you are vegetarians or vegans, and I honor that, but I'm not. I'm a carnivore. And I heard a talk years ago. This man was taking his daughter out for hunting in Alaska. And she shot an elk, but she was very depressed and she was crying over it. And the speaker mentioned that she was an indigo child, that she understood that what she did was wrong and you don't kill animals and all that. But the bottom line is they live in Alaska. And I was up there visiting, and our tour guides told us if we don't have an elk or a moose or a caribou in the freezer by October, we're going to starve. So it's a necessity for a lot of people to have this access to food. And I know myself, I'm trying to deal with that. One person I heard on NPR said you shouldn't eat anything you can't kill. And I know myself, well, I have gone fishing, so I can eat fish, and I probably could kill a chicken. But I love steak and hamburger. I know I couldn't kill a cow. And I love bacon. I couldn't kill a pig. And I was introduced to lamb chops in Iceland. Oh my God, they're so delicious. And I couldn't kill a lamb. So this is something I'm working on with that situation. I'm trying to buy organic meats. Okay. So the next slide. Gus Speth is a scientist, and he says, I used to think the top environmental problems were biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, and climate change. Thought that with 30 years of good science, we could address those problems, but I was wrong. The top environmental problems are selfishness, greed, and apathy. To deal with those, we need a spiritual and cultural transformation. And we scientists don't know how to do that. And they really can't do it alone. So we all need to work together to reverse this situation. And the Dalai Lama, our prime purpose in this life is to help others. And if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them. And each and every animal on this earth has as much right to be here as you and I, as you and me. Okay. Let's leave that one up. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to say part of this closing. Columbine Unity a few years back, we were studying the surrender experiment by Michael Singer. And during this, we're supposed to meditate for 6 weeks. And I am not a person who can meditate. I just can't. But I really disciplined myself and did what I could to meditate with this. And this is an experience I had, so I'm going to ask us all to join in. And let's do some moments of meditation. Can you get the lights, please? Okay. So I ask us to, let's breathe in pure oxygen that the trees are giving us. And let's exhale. Give them the carbon dioxide. Breathe in and breathe out. And if you can, try to visualize yourself floating above the planet, and we're looking at it. It's a beautiful blue orb. And there's millions of us doing this, and we're circling the planet. We're holding on to each other. My right hand's holding someone's left leg. My left hand's holding someone's right leg, and someone's holding my right leg, and another person, my left leg. We're all embraced, and we're all circling this planet. And we're sending it peace, love, and healing. So let's breathe in pure oxygen and exhale peace, love, and healing. And for 1 second, nothing on this planet suffers. There is no destruction or pollution. Everything is received with peace, love, and healing. And if we can come together tomorrow, maybe 2 seconds of peace, love, and healing. Nothing but peace, love, and healing for this planet. And Tuesday, maybe we could get together and do 4 seconds of nothing but peace, love, and healing. And we can go on, and we can heal this planet. And so it is. Thank you.